If your neighbor is quietly recording the time you take out the trash, if your coworker is secretly recording your conversations in the break room, if even the person sleeping next to you checks your private notes while you sleep, then what you are living in is no longer a society. It is a system of total visibility, a system where reporting others becomes survival, and silence becomes suspicion. The question is simple. How do you survive 100 days in a world like this? This is not science fiction. This is a real psychological experiment known as the Disguiser Protocol. 20 volunteers were placed inside a sealed micro-society called the Clear Dome Community. There are no laws here. Only one metric exists: loyalty score. There is no private space, no personal identity in the traditional sense, no protection. Everyone is both observer and target. You gain points by reporting others. You lose points when others report you, fall too low, and you are isolated or removed from the system entirely. But the most disturbing rule inside this world is not surveillance. It is something far more counterintuitive: self-reporting. Confess your own mistakes before someone else discovers them. Expose yourself first, and you may survive. Wait too long, and you disappear. The first thing you notice in the Clear Dome community is that nothing feels like a prison. There are no bars, no cameras, no guards walking in circles. Instead, there is something worse: soft surveillance. Every window faces a shared corridor. Every wall is thin enough to transmit breathing patterns. Every sound becomes public information. Residents wear what is called a loyalty band. It does not directly track location, but it tracks behavioral patterns, social frequency, and emotional fluctuations. All data is synchronized in real time to the central administration system. But the real mechanism is not technology. It is people. Each resident is required to submit at least 3 valid reports every month. If you fail to report others, your own score drops automatically. Silence is not neutral here. Silence is evidence of hidden intent. And so the community begins to mutate. A person sees a crumpled tissue in the trash with printed text on it. Someone reports ideological contamination. A man sleeps 1 hour longer on Sunday. He is flagged for behavioral deviation. A child overhears adults arguing about community rules. The parents are reported for questioning authority. And then it escalates further. Someone finds a single hair near a neighbor's door. It is collected as potential evidence, not proof, just potential. That is enough. In the early notes of one participant, a line appears: "I stopped seeing people as people. I started seeing them as patterns waiting to break." And that is the first transformation. Not fear of being watched, but the instinct to watch everything. The first 30 days are not about survival. They are about deletion. You do not survive by becoming stronger. You survive by becoming less expressive, less individual, less noticeable. One participant was a freelance photographer before entering the experiment. He always carried a camera, always observed light, shadows, human faces. On day 1, that habit already made him visible. Another participant was reported for keeping an unapproved plant on their balcony. The system labeled it as specialization behavior. Their score dropped instantly. So the photographer dismantled his camera, lens separated, memory erased piece by piece, not because he wanted to, because existence itself had become suspicious. Daily life becomes mechanical repetition. 7 o'clock wake up, 8 o'clock standardized breakfast, 9 o'clock assigned labor, 19 o'clock ideological review meeting, 21 o'clock lights off. No deviation. Even walking patterns begin to synchronize. Even facial expressions become controlled. People stop speaking freely. They begin speaking correctly. Conversation becomes structured around approved terms: community, loyalty, contribution, stability, no humor, no conflict, no unnecessary eye contact. Life becomes grayscale repetition, safe, predictable, hollow. One participant later said, "I didn't feel like I was living. I felt like I was being processed." But suppression always creates tension, and tension always searches for release. On day 47, the system breaks slightly, not through rebellion, through accident. An participant, Lee, enters an abandoned storage area, dust everywhere, forgotten equipment, old supplies, and there, hidden under debris, he finds a book, The Little Prince. In the Clear Dome community, this book is classified as prohibited material, not because of imagination, Because it contains emotion, individuality, and non-structured thinking. Lee knows the rule immediately. He should leave it. He almost does, but something interrupts him. Memory, childhood. A time before rules became total. He takes the book. And that decision changes everything. He hides it inside his uniform and brings it back to his room. That night, he opens it. Only after lights out. Only under the dim glow of a phone screen. Page by page. Not reading for rebellion, reading for continuity of self. On day 53, the fracture appears. A neighbor knocks unexpectedly. Lie freezes. The book shifts. A page turns. A soft sound. Too soft in any normal world. Too loud in this one. The neighbor hears it. Nothing is said. But silence becomes communication. A look passes between them. And in that look, everything is already recorded. That night, Lee hears typing through the wall, fast, precise. Continuous, someone is documenting something. He does not sleep. Because in this system, uncertainty is more dangerous than accusation. He has two choices: destroy the book or hide it deeper. But both choices are illusions. Destroying it signals guilt. Hiding it signals intent. In a system like this, intent is always punishable even without action. And that is the trap. The more you try to survive quietly, the more visible you become. At dawn, Lee walks into the administration center. He carries the book in his hands and he confesses completely. My actions violated community rules. I failed to report prohibited material. I accept responsibility. His voice breaks. His breathing collapses. His emotional state is exaggerated, almost theatrical. He even requests review of his emotional data logs to prove sincerity, to prove internal conflict, to prove compliance. The administrator reviews everything, and then something unexpected happens. He is not punished, he is promoted. High loyalty awareness confirmed. Self-correction behavior validated. His loyalty score increases. He becomes a model participant. Because in this system, truth is not the goal. Visibility of obedience is the goal. Self-reporting is not confession. It is alignment. Another participant breaks a cup and immediately reports herself. She is rewarded, not because she is honest, but because she is predictable. And slowly, behavior shifts across the entire community. People begin reporting smaller and smaller mistakes, until behavior itself becomes a continuous confession loop. But something else begins to emerge. Something internal. Lee starts monitoring himself, not because others demand it, but because he cannot stop. He reports overrunning by 50 meters. He reports eating slightly more food. He reports inappropriate thoughts during sleep. Then he installs a mirror, not for reflection, for evaluation. He records his own voice to detect forbidden tone patterns. He writes 3 confessions every day, morning, afternoon, night. At some point, surveillance no longer requires external input. It becomes self-generated, and then it splits. A second voice appears in his mind. One observes. One accuses. Both feel real. By day 80, identity fragmentation becomes visible. He describes it later. One part of me is trying to survive. The other part is trying to report me. That is the collapse point. Not fear, but division. The self becoming both prisoner and guard. On day 100, the experiment ends. Lee exits the Clear Dome community, physically free. Psychologically unstable, the outside world feels too open, too unstructured, too unsafe. He still wakes at 7, still follows internal schedules, still avoids individuality in clothing, still evaluates people instinctively for behavioral risk. One day, his sister plays music loudly in the living room. His reaction is immediate. Turn it down. Someone might report you. Silence follows, and then realization. There is no one left to report. But the system remains active. Inside him, he avoids mirrors, he avoids unpredictability, he avoids freedom itself. A psychologist later diagnoses him with severe post-traumatic self-surveillance disorder. The key symptom is not fear of authority. It is inability to stop observing oneself. The experiment ends with a conclusion that is difficult to ignore. When surveillance becomes total, behavior does not become free. It becomes optimized. And when survival depends on self-reporting, identity becomes negotiable. So the real question is not whether you could survive a system like this for 100 days. The real question is simpler. How much of yourself would you erase before you stopped recognizing the person who remains?